Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of Mike in the Asylum with your host, Sydney Cisneros.
Jesse Neto.
Liam Grant.
And Ron Van Buskirk.
Join us tonight as we discuss some of our favorite horror movies in this particularly heated episode. I'll turn it over to Jesse, who will introduce the movie and its basic plot, and go ahead.
So this was my pick of the evening. If you aren't aware as of yet, since we're still getting our footing, every week we pick the movies between ourselves, and that's what we go with. The movie that I chose was 2016's Raw. It is a French movie directed by a name I can't say, but I'm going to give it a try. Julia Ducournau. I'm probably wrong.
That's very
but
good.
yeah, and so the basic plot summary of this movie, and no spoiler territory, is that a young student, what was her name?
Julia.
No,
No, my bad.
Justine.
Gosh, am I the only one? I'm the only one that wrote down.
They never say her name.
They only say it once.
Gotcha. Justine is a young woman who is enrolling into veterinarian college and going through that sort of life, and certain transitions happen over the course of the movie, and it delves into some fun horror, at least in my opinion. So, that was the plot synopsis. Who wants to take the
Okay, and he said no spoilers, but this is going to be loaded full of spoilers.
Oh, no,
so,
spoilers come now.
Yeah. So
the
if
next bit.
I think I should probably go last.
if
Here's the spoiler.
Oh yeah, we all give our
warning.
opinions. Right?
Spoilers.
Jesse, you go first since you brought
Okay,
it
so
up.
basic opinion, right? Basic opinions.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, basic opinions. For me, there are very few things that I don't love about this movie. I saw it with like no understanding of what it was, no preconceived notions, and from the first introduction scene, I was hooked all the way through, and it was one of my favorite movies of the year. Over to Liam.
Oh, hey, it's my turn. So, overall I enjoyed this movie. It started out okay, but then it slowly got better, and then it just hit like a certain scene where I just immediately fell in love with it, and yeah, overall it was good. So I'll pass it to Ron now.
all right, when I first started watching this movie, I was hating it at first because I was like, "This is stupid." Like, pretty much what it is, you know, she's forced to eat meat, and she's a vegetarian. Oh
No, this is just opinions.
I'm
we'll
sorry.
get
Okay.
we'll get into the deep plot. Sorry,
Okay.
we're still new with this.
Okay, my opinion overall, I'm going to go ahead and say I hated it at first, and then by the end of the movie, I loved it. So it is definitely a movie I'll rewatch, and I'll take it on.
Get hype.
I fucking hated this movie.
The match has started.
we queued it up, and unfortunately, I didn't go into it completely blind. Jesse told us last week what movie we're going to be watching, and then Ron said something about, "Oh, you're going to see a person eat raw chicken or whatever." And I thought it was going to be a torture movie, like lady is locked up in a cell and forced to do weird stuff, as is the tradition in a lot of movies like this. And then I saw the plot synopsis on Netflix where we watched it, and that gave me enough to be like, "Oh, this movie's gonna fucking suck."
Oh, dang it.
And on top of that, it was a French movie. And, we'll get into that later.
Woo.
So I did not like this movie at all. So I guess now we're kind of go through the plot a little more in detail, get into some real spoiler territory here, and Jesse will go ahead and take it away from here.
So the movie opens with a scenic drive with trees on either side, and it's all very beautiful and picturesque, and cars are going by, and then horror of horrors, a lady jumps out right in front of the car and causes it to crash directly into a tree.
Now, that was a good scene. I did really like it.
Yes.
But I was worried it was going to be like an in media res thing, and they were showing us the ending of the movie or something that happens in the middle of the movie at the beginning.
that
I would,
that would have been terrible.
So right away, I was kind of going in a little queasy.
I just love the tension of the scene because at first you see a character walking down like the edge of the road, and then it cuts away to the car coming from the other side, and then when it cuts back to the original view, that person is no longer there. So already, like, for me, that was like an interesting setup that I didn't know where it was going to go.
It's a good setup for like suspicious things are going on.
And then the way the music builds as she slowly gets up and dusts herself off and like walks towards the car just like casually after the horrible accident. It's just like, okay, I'm on board.
It was a beautiful weather shot too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Howdy, friends.
I love cloudy France.
Yeah,
That-
good
like
fall.
those are some of my favorite
This
shots.
is the movie for you.
yeah.
Watch it with your grandma.
I will.
No, it's like I do like because France is a beautiful country, and one of the reasons why I do enjoy watching movies and stuff set in there is you get to see the gorgeous fields and vistas and everything.
Boy, this movie has none of that.
Absolutely none of it.
The opening shot is like the most nature we ever get. It's fun. So then...
Oh, sorry, I was about to say, yeah, that does suck.
Yeah, I gotcha. So the scene after this, we're introduced to our main character, Justine. I got her name right. Go.
Yeah.
She is with her family at a sort of, I don't know,
Diner.
diner.
Yeah.
Looked very...
Some sort of
Cafe.
cafeteria.
It,
thing.
looked,
Cafeteria,
it looked
yeah.
like IKEA, and then I immediately got sad.
Yeah, it looked like an IKEA
They
cafeteria.
kind of look like IKEA meatballs too. So
Yeah.
speaking of, that's where we're introduced to the kind of the conflict of this entire movie, where we're introduced to this family as a group of vegetarians.
Not just vegetarian; they're violently
They're
vegetarian.
violent. But so she's eating her mashed potatoes, and oh, horror of horrors, she has a meatball, and her mom
How-
throws a fit.
How do you hide a meatball in mashed potato?
Very easily.
Well,
yeah, it's not hard.
If you think about
I
it,
mean, like-
potatoes could be right next to the meatballs.
Oh
And,
no,
Oh,
it's
okay.
literally
scooping
it's
it,
literally
like scooping
yeah.
it quick.
But it would be like sticking out, and like a lunch late could be like, oh, okay. And
Do
then
you
just
honestly
pick it
think
out.
that they have high standards?
See,
at this
I worked a
cafeteria?
job like that. I
mean,
guarantee you, we didn't
yes.
try that hard.
Dude,
Oh, okay.
how many
So
times have you
I-
been? How many times have you been to Burger King, got an onion ring in your fries?
Well, it's like the best part though.
Yeah, I know, but
The,
that's
like
what I'm saying.
it's given like a guarantee. Like, everyone loves Shrek, and ogres are like onions. So it's like finding Shrek in your French fry.
All
I'm
right.
getting off topic.
Yeah, let's get back on
Yeah.
topic.
Shrek is love, Shrek is life. So the important
Mistakes and miracles.
the important line that we're given in this scene is her mother asking if she bit into it. That's kind of an interesting thing for a vegetarian to say, where it's like, they're so vegetarian, how dare you even, like, oh my
Bite
god,
into
did
it.
you touch it? Did you taste it? So
I
that's...
mean, there is a. I will admit there is a nice emphasis on, or you could be allergic to it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's kind of a... Watching it at the moment, you don't really think of anything too weird, but looking back on it, it's definitely,
Yeah,
that's a sign
definitely.
of things to come.
I always thought like the mom was uptight.
Oh, yeah.
Like when I
Oh,
first
yeah.
saw that, I was like, wow, that is like
She's being
a
very.
crazy mom.
With what we learn
And
later,
it-
she has to be.
Yes.
So, as we... At this point, the parents are driving her towards the university where they drop her off, and she was supposed to meet her sister Alex there, who was already at this university, but she's not there to pick her up.
And her father, being a great French father, is like, "All right, we're taking off. See you later."
Have fun.
just like blows cigarette smoke in her in
That's
his
not an
daughter's
exaggeration.
face.
That
French
actually
scarf.
happens. That actually happens. This is the most French movie I've ever
Yep.
seen.
Everyone's
Dude,
smoking.
yes, even the nurse is smoking in this
It's
like
hard to
movie.
in
say.
the hospital.
In the hospital room.
I'm going to take a moment to bring up a little pet peeve of mine. I kind of love that about this movie because I'm one of those people who misses cigarettes in movies.
Yeah.
It looks really good when
Because
you're like standing there with the
regardless,
smoke going up.
regardless of what those Dare Squares said,
Yeah.
smoking looks really.
We do
cool.
not promote smoking
Yeah,
cigarettes.
no, smoking is bad for you, but it
I-
makes you look
It,
really
it makes
cool.
it cinematic as fuck.
The only smoking I approve is the smoking in Lord of the Rings with the pipe weeds.
There we go.
Yeah.
delicious long bottom
You and
leaf.
your Hobbit leaves.
Do you know who looked cool? Do you know who smoked?
Who?
James Dean.
He did.
He looked
did.
really cool. didn't he?
Yeah, smoking kills.
No, to be fair, he died in a car wreck. I think.
Yeah, I know.
So
need to know
so
that.
smoking messed with the brakes.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
There's a
Probably.
whole story about that car.
Anyway,
but we're not going to get
again. All right, go ahead.
So after
going.
this point, she goes into her dorm, and that's where we meet one of the major characters of the movie,
Aiden.
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 And he's a male student, which is interesting. I don't know if it was.
Oh, it's Adrian. Sorry.
Adrian. Dang it,
Adrian.
If,
Sorry.
if it was ever set up as a
Professional
co-ed sort
I
of
think it
dorm,
is. I think because you see,
was
I think
co-ed.
she's the others.
She specifically says, "It's like I asked for a girl roommate," and she's like, "Well."
I think
Well,
the
I'm gay, so it's the same thing. Like
The-
that's
I thought that was
what
funny.
he said.
and it's okay. I'm allowed to say this, but the exact phrasing is because it's really blunt and forceful college kids. I think the line is something like they just she says, "What the fuck? I asked for a girl," and then he replies, "Oh, they gave you a fag. It makes no difference to them."
Right. So that's
Which sets up the attitude of this college pretty quickly, I think.
And what sets up the attitude next is that the hazing ritual begins as every student is ripped from their dorm and thrown into initiation, as it were, as everyone is like super pissed. And I would be
In their
pissed.
jammies, a bunch of people with ski masks run in and literally force them out of their rooms.
What
So
if
we're gonna-
one was nude?
It'd be awesome.
There were multiple topless women because most
Oh,
most of
yeah.
them are in their underwear. It's-
Yeah,
And it's
like,
very
No, I mean
they
like
waited till the
like,
absolute
like
when
an
they settled
ugly
in.
dude. Like that was nude.
probably.
So
I'd probably give him a robe.
yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
probably-
they cut that out
For all of our sake.
we'll probably hit this harder later, but I just want to say right now, a thing I enjoy about the scene is it was felt to me like a very realistic portrayal of hazing. Extreme hazing, I grant you, but these sorts of things do happen on several college campuses around the world, and yeah, it's miserable and awful, and I hate every moment of it, and I was feeling for the character very much in this scene.
Yeah.
So they're taken down, they go, the process doesn't really matter, they eventually end up in a party, and
So something I will say real quick is that hazing scene actually made me more uncomfortable than anything else. In the
that's
movie.
fair, that's fair. I would have, yeah, I understand that. I was just like on edge, I was like...
Granted, it's my own personal fear of being in public spaces with lots of people. But still, like compared to the stuff that's supposed to make you feel queasy.
I mean, it kind of has the idea of like, in a way, I know this is like way extreme, but it's like what is it, Nazi Germany? It's like they come into your place and take you, and you don't have the choice of staying.
That's
or
how we
going.
do it in France.
That's so.
Vets
So
have
it
to be
has,
hardcore.
so yeah, so you have that dread.
I mean, if that's how they did it in France, wouldn't that mean they just like? Oh wait, no,
Are you
never
gonna
mind.
make a surrender joke?
Well,
Liam, come on.
technically, yeah.
This is a higher class
We're
podcast.
a highbrow fucking podcast.
Yeah, okay, my bad. I was just gonna mention how like France was like, here you can take this, Nazi Germany, just leave us alone.
There we go.
There we go.
But,
We
you know-
made it. We got there, folks.
It only
There we
took
go.
us 10 minutes.
Well, we got it out of the way. Thank God.
Thank God. Let's continue.
So moving on, they eventually get to the party, and this is where we're introduced to the second main character of the movie in Alex Justine's sister. There we go. I got it.
We did it.
We did it.
we did it.
Some super Mila Jovovich.
She's
looking
introduced
character.
twerking, and I appreciate that because that tells us a lot about
Tells
the
us
character
right away, especially compared to what we've seen of her sister, so
Oh,
weak
yeah.
and timid.
Her
Was
sister
there-
has very much come across as like she doesn't want to rock the boat. She just wants to like get through this, attracting as little attention as possible. And her sister is all, I want all of the attention.
And I mean, I don't know if you just said it, but they where they met was at a rave. It's a rave. It's pretty much they took all these kids to a party, pretty much
You see people taking pills. It's,
Pills,
it's a
acid.
college party.
making out.
It's your
Yeah,
stereotypical movie college party.
exactly. Well, French.
I don't know, John.
Because I'd be scared to go to this party.
There was a hanged doll of a dog. I just want to bring that up.
Was it a dog? I thought it was like a lamb.
I thought it was a lamb.
I thought it was a
I take
lamb.
back what I said.
It had 8 legs.
I don't remember that part.
I remember.
I'll take your word for it.
Oh yeah, or maybe I think you might be thinking
you're
of the lamb
yeah,
in the
you're
jar.
yeah, we're talking. There was like
Like
No,
that,
there was a stuffed lamb there
Yeah.
with multiple
Yeah.
legs.
I'm talking about like there was
Oh.
a doll that was hanging.
Oh, I forgot there were multiple.
Okay, it
dolls.
happens
Never
as they
mind.
leave. the
Okay,
party.
that
So
is the
let's
big
just-
one.
Lamb to the slaughter.
Let me just say that's one of my problems with this movie. Some of the most ham-fisted foreshadowing I've ever seen.
That's true, but I would also say at the other times the movie doesn't hold your hand in a way I know this movie would have done if it was American.
That's fair
Yes.
too. But like every conversation I had is like, oh, it's gonna fucking come up again.
It definitely they do reincorporate a lot. Like at the very beginning of the movie, when the hazing is just about to start, Adrian tosses her a ski pole. Comes back later.
Yeah.
You're right. It is kind of pedestrian. Like
So there,
setup and
yeah,
payoff.
Yeah.
because we saw a ski pole, and there was like, I wonder if that gets played in a later.
It doesn't.
It doesn't.
So
Spoiler. No.
after this, we learn. I would say the tidbit of information that's relevant is that their mother went to this veterinary school.
I think both
before
their
them.
parents.
Both
Yeah,
of
both
them.
of their parents did.
That's where
So
they
this
met.
this is a line of veterinarians for some reason, and
They're really adamant about going to this
they're
shitty
super-
school.
And there are reasons for that, I think, afterwards. But
And I would like to hear this.
okay, what happens next? What happens next? I think is I think I
It's
said
a
it's-
smash cut to the next day, and they're in the line.
they're in the line. So in order to be initiated into this,
Well, first they get a photograph taken of them with like
Oh,
a
yeah,
bunch
with
of
the blood.
animals' blood poured on
Yeah.
it.
and that's kind of her Justine's first taste, I would say. Literally.
To the life, yeah.
Yep.
And like, of course, Haley and I, both of us, or I should, my girlfriend and I, both of us being really,
Do you like her?
being really cynical at this point. Of course, we were laughing about it. Have you guys seen Carrie? We like Carrie.
I didn't even think of that. I thought
I
it was
didn't
just
either.
like the normal ritual of the school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like, it's
That was
blood
pig's
being-
blood,
It
This
could
is-
have been.
I
We
don't
don't know.
know.
It's a veterinary school.
So as long as we are going to throw like nitpicks into here, that was an incredible amount of blood. Like I'm trying to imagine the bucket that it took to do that.
This is
And I guess I should say, like, another one of my problems is because this, along with the roommate situation, this is an insanely lax. Like, this is a criminally lax college.
I kind of loved that.
Yeah, like I
Like the
will admit,
students were clearly running the.
yeah, and like the inmates running the asylum
Yeah.
kind of thing. But still, it was kind of intense at times.
So after the blood ritual, they had to do the next part of the initiation, which is
Which is
eating.
where the movie really
Eating
starts.
a
Oh, yeah.
raw rabbit's kidney.
Yeah, Sydney hits the nail on the head. It's where I would say it's the inciting incident of the plot, where they're in order to go through this, in order to not be bitched out and thrown out and called
They go
traitor,
to the old abandoned lab and pull out the old, like, preserved animal parts and pieces.
and they got what was it like rabbit kidney?
I think that's what she got, but I think what the kind of the joke they make is, oh, if you're at the back of the line, you don't get to choose. So I think they had a bunch of shit.
Oh, that makes sense.
That's just what she got.
And she refuses to, being a staunch vegetarian. And then her sister comes over and is like, "What's the issue?" And it's like, "I'm not a vegetarian." And she's like, "Come on, it's no big deal." And she basically forces her to eat it, and it's her first taste of flesh.
Yes.
She doesn't take to it well. She almost upchucks.
I
She
should
doesn't, though.
I should also
we don't
say
know.
I should
Did we
also
see
say
it? Okay.
At least from what we're shown.
I should also say the sister being the one to force her to eat her first taste of meat is also some more ham-fisted foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Well,
Is it though? If you don't know where
Well,
it's going,
well, because
Knew where
well,
it was
here,
going, though.
I didn't know where
It was
going.
pretty easy to tell where it was going.
I'm thinking what it was like
You
without
don't
get-
know her motivation.
Yeah, there's I
That
don't
is
want to
true.
I don't want to say it
I-
right now because there is
Because at
motivation
this
to it,
point,
I
I
think.
will admit, I could be just me looking back at it. Because at this point, she just seems like, girl who's been away from home and she's changed.
Yeah, I would definitely say that
Like,
felt
she's
like a
not
very
the same-
natural moment of it's like, it's no big deal, you pussy.
Yeah.
She's not the same.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I could give like an educated guess on why
you know what?
Alex. Huh.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought of something. Go
You
ahead.
go ahead.
Finish
Okay,
that. I'm
I could
sorry.
give an educated guess on why Alex did that because, like, the elders or great ones, was like surprised that like Justine was Alex's younger sister. So it was like, oh wow, Alex is just so great, like a party legend and stuff like that. So Alex didn't want people to know that like her younger sister was like
a
this
square.
was a square, yeah. So
I would-
it's like,
Oh,
here, eat this. I need these people to think I'm cool.
I would say that there's also multiple angles to this because that's definitely a thing where she's like, "Don't embarrass me in front of the older kids." But I wouldn't say
Yeah.
that's her most pressing concern. I would say her most pressing concern is she actually is looking out for her sister. It's like, you got to do this or else your life
Otherwise,
is
your
going
life
to
will
be
be
a living
hell. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the way I look at it is, I think the reason why she didn't show up to meet her parents or meet her sister at that point is because they would know. Of course, you'll find out further on in this podcast, but that she has changed. She's not the same Alex from home.
This isn't
the
your
vegetarian
usual.
one.
This isn't your usual.
This is a
change.
different Alex.
I'll have
That's
things to talk about later at the
Okay.
end of the movie.
because
I'm
I don't.
not sure if I agree.
Okay, we'll keep going.
Okay.
So, okay. So after that, later on that night, or when she's in sleep, the rash started. So,
Yep. Which I like that makeup because like she was itching at it and it wasn't coming up. So that was
That was decent makeup. If only they could
And-
keep up that tradition
That's
of
very-
good makeup.
when like she pulled up her shirt for the first time. I was like a little. I don't like rashes, so I was like, oh, that looks
and then like
uncomfortable.
pulling skin, like full arms. Ugh.
See, I scratch myself in my sleep due to my eczema. So like
I think you
can
can do to your
You related
later
to
in
it?
the movie.
And then, oh yeah, my bad. So like
Into your
so,
problem.
Yeah, due to my problem. But like, I can just relate to that, and I'm like backing up watching this because I'm like, ooh, I don't like that because I do the exact same thing, which is like why I have to keep my nails like down to my bone or stuff like that because like, you know.
No, that's interesting because I honestly didn't feel anything of that scene of it's the next part of the movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't
no,
really
like-
I didn't really think of it one way or the other. I kind of start thinking about it
like,
later.
The
but-
movie overall is kind of body horror.
I feel like.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry,
No,
we did this. Go ahead, man.
This is the second time. It's just like that's how I'm like. So when I see something that like I can relate to, I'm like, oh yeah, I know that. Oh no, I don't want to see that though.
Yeah.
That's good. That's what a movie
That's
should
what
elicit.
good horror should.
See, and and my view on this, like now that I know the ending of it, it was her she's morphing into something that she was.
Yeah, it could be seen as
You
like
know?
a snake shedding its skin.
Yeah,
or something.
exactly.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good analogy.
So after this, she goes to the nursing. I think this is where like one of the central themes of the movie comes up. Yeah, she's a hard smoking nurse, but they have a discussion, and the basic gist of it is that like you're in this college and people are going to make you do things you aren't going to want to do, but you're going to do them because you want to fit in.
Oh yeah,
sort of thing.
she goes to go visit Nurse Exposition.
That is uncharitable, sir. But
You were just being.
You were just
mean.
throwing rocks at this movie.
Let the magic of movies take you on a
are you
ride.
just meeting me, Jeff?
I know it's funny, but what was yes? So I would say one of the central themes of the movie is hit on right now of like conformity and like the world is trying to shape you into something that you don't want to be, but eventually you're going to be like in situations where you sort of give in, and that's going to take you to places you didn't expect to go.
So, which is a decent which is actually something I liked about the movie, because that scene like it offers that message, the same message, tired message you get all the time. Don't be afraid to be yourself.
Right,
But
it's
this
just
movie,
in an extreme
but
way.
this movie kind of shows the downsides of following that advice.
Right. And I will say that like that's why I would consider this a very amazing college movie in my opinion, because I think it hits on those themes better than most do.
Are you saying this movie is more profound and thought-provoking than
I-
Animal House?
Okay, I don't know about that.
What
but-
about Van Wilder?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
How would you feel if Justine did the whole zit scene, but
I
with
would
human
note down
flesh?
that. Oh, wait,
Oh.
what?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
like just
I honestly don't
Stop.
know.
Stop.
like you know how
Stop.
John Belushi walks in with the food and he's like
No.
putting it all in his mouth and then like all
I
over
said
people. Okay.
So what happens after that?
She starts. We started noticing that she's eating her own hair. So it's like it's now.
Doesn't she do something weird before that?
She tries to steal a hamburger patty. Does that happen before?
Yes.
Oh yeah, that was the first thing. You're right.
Yes. She
So-
steals a hamburger patty, and she doesn't even know why she does it. Like that.
She
wasn't
takes it
gonna
almost
happen.
at a reflex.
Yeah.
Because like she's had her first taste, and now she's like, I'm
And this
gonna
is
explore.
also when her roommate first realizes that, oh, maybe this whole vegetarian thing isn't a thing anymore.
Right.
And it's also worth mentioning there's a scene right after that where they decide to like ditch the school dinner and they
Oh,
go
yeah,
out
that's
and get, I
right.
think they call it, is it kebab?
I think that happens later.
Yes.
No, does that happen later? I could have
think
sworn
that
that happens immediately afterwards, but I
it-
could be wrong.
It's,
That is
it's
like-
right after
I
the.
think-
It's
I
it's
think you might be
it's,
right there.
it's after the patty.
Apparently, I was in a blind cartoony rage at this point in
Yeah.
the movie.
No, you're right. You're right.
And I said
I
something
want
real,
to say that's right.
real briefly there about exploring. That's another theme of the movie. It's about exploring new things and exploring yourself. Blah blah blah.
Blah, blah, blah.
And
It's a college movie. What do you expect?
So do we want to hit on that part where they drive off to go to the like where the kebab is and stuff?
Well,
Because
yeah,
I want to bring up how they drive by a crash. I don't know if it's the one
Yeah.
we saw from the first part of the movie.
but
I think
it's a
is.
different.
I
I
think-
think it's a different crash.
Because there's
I thought it was
different
different.
Because
I thought the
I'm
car
thinking
was
like now we're seeing that this is a series of crashes.
Yeah, okay, no,
are happening on
this does
road.
happen days later.
Yeah.
So that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
So-
But I love that this is just a thing that's happening.
So somebody's causing these wrecks, like so. It's not just a one-time
And
thing.
mutilating the victims.
And
So
I,
we
and I
don't know
know,
yet.
and I know that this
we
is.
see a bit of the face.
Oh, I guess
Yeah.
that is true.
Yeah.
We did.
And I know that this is probably like a dumb American movie thing, but I honestly think this movie would have been better if it was straight up, what's up with all these crashes and these weird things?
And they were like studying it and not just going through the college life.
Yeah.
I understand that perspective, and it could have led to an interesting movie. I won't deny that. But what happens next?
Okay, and then I probably would say, well, after the hair, like you're starting to see that she's
Oh.
like,
And also, I should also get mentioned the scene where she's eating her hair. She's also getting chewed out by her professor. And that's
For
where you
being
find
better.
for
than
being
other
a
people.
good student,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is weird.
He's like, oh, your goodness is going to take down everyone else, and they're going to
Yeah.
leave because they don't think they can handle it, and like they're
And-
going to be better than
and,
you.
and as a crew of mostly young people, I'm sure like at least three of us have constantly heard the speech of your generation has everything
Oh,
handed
yeah.
to you. So
Yeah.
of course that scene also was like really
Mhm.
I it probably wasn't ultra important to the plot itself, but I feel like it was really important to the theme.
It helps her like downward spiral.
Yeah.
It made me see how shitty this college was.
Mhm.
Like with the students, and then it's like, oh, the professors must be okay. No, they're like just as bad.
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
I would say the next thing is we start to see more of the relationship of Alex and Justine's relationship.
Where she's trying to help her with the dress, and she's like, "Go away, you're pissing me off."
Well,
Yeah.
that and also, well, we want to go to like right before she got the finger when they're on the roof peeing, standing up and stuff. It's like it's kind of weird. I don't know. I don't have a sister, so I don't know if I can ask.
I should say I've
One-
never done anything like this with my brother.
1 second.
Okay.
We skipped something.
Oh,
Okay.
yes, we
Do
probably
we?
did something very
There
important.
was a moment, I forget when it happens in the plot, if it's before or after the kebab. We
Okay.
know that she's hungry and that she's not getting satisfied by like what she normally used to eat. And at one point, Adrian finds her sneaking into the refrigerator, eating some raw meat.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
eating
Oh, yeah.
just
'Cause
raw
we did,
chicken straight
That's
out of
right.
the
We did eat. or
And I
she
know
did
people
eat
who
that.
like cringe so much at this scene because for some reason that's like a well, I don't want to. The trigger is the wrong word, but like they're not okay with seeing-
sickening.
Well, because like,
scene.
because
Is that when people walked out
kind
when
of,
she was eating the
some
chicken?
people did.
Oh my
I
gosh.
kind of had a discussion with this
I
with
would've said the finger
a coworker of
more
mine
of a-
because I talked to him a little bit about the movie to help prepare for this. There are a lot of dishes that you eat that involve eating raw meat. Sushi, raw fish. I don't remember what it's called, but that famous Italian dish that's raw beef with lemon juice and whatever. So like raw meat isn't a usual thing, but raw chicken is always like throughout human history
Like
a big
salmonella.
no-no.
Yeah.
Yeah, people.
So
would
the
get
fact that it's that right away is enough to make someone go, because at least with other raw stuff you could be like, I don't know, I've heard this is pretty good. But
do we know
I'd like
if the-
that aspect. That
Do
it
we
was
know
chicken.
if the actors actually did that?
I doubt it.
I
'Cause
doubt- I
that
very
looks
much
like a
doubt it.
real raw chicken. Like,
Because of the
they did it
theme.
real well. On
It,
So,
it made
uh,
me want to have gummy.
Oh, I'm
bears.
gonna
Oh my
talk
God.
more. I'm gonna talk more about this later on in the episode. But because of the themes of this and the fact that it was a more artistic movie, I felt like had more of a message. I'm gonna get into what I personally think about the director and what she was going for, and that raw chicken thing I think will come up during that discussion.
So, real fast, I will note that in the chicken scene, it's the first time we've seen her eat something I would say that she very much enjoys. Because in the mashed potato, she's just kind of like stirring her fork around and it's like whatever.
Oh,
Whereas
he's talking
this one,
about how she's
yeah,
full.
when she rips out the piece of chicken, she goes like you can tell like she
Like it's satisfying.
making her come alive.
Don't make that noise.
I know.
We're gonna have that on repeat.
Well, it's the
And-
new opening of the podcast.
I think I think I wanted to lead into a bit of the relationship between them so far because it is
Yeah.
a sort of you annoy me, but I'm also trying to help you sort of thing.
Your typical. I don't know if any of you have younger
I do
siblings,
not.
but
Yeah,
like,
I do.
Yeah, because like that whole attitude of like, because it's something me and my brother and sister have gone through all the time, where it's like, oh my god, you're obnoxious. Why can't you get out of my life? All right, here's this piece of advice.
It's
Well, then,
juxtaposition.
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
It's juxtaposition because we see that Alex is one of like the head people of the like veteran year students, and it's against Justine, who is just a complete noob, totally out of
Well,
her
and
element.
then even that particular aspect isn't something new. Like lots of movies involving older siblings are like that.
Like Alex went to college and she like found herself and came alive. Justine is going to college and is like getting crushed by everything around her. She's just like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
I'm not used to this. I'm uncomfortable.
Well, we
with
don't.
this entire thing.
But we don't know if Alex went through that. Like,
Exactly,
and that's
and
why.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so I think what it is Alex knows exactly the outcome at the end. Like she knows where her sister's now heading, but she needs to kind of like buffer it to like where she won't go off the rails.
I'm not entirely sure.
You don't think so?
We'll talk about that. 'Cause
Okay.
I think she wanted an accomplice. But
Yeah.
I think she was also surprised at the same time. But
yeah,
talk about
we'll get into that.
Okay.
that.
Yeah, keep going.
I think that's close to what we're talking to because we talked about the scene where they're like on the roof just chilling.
Yeah.
peeing.
Weird French perversion stuff.
Yeah, they're.
I
I
don't know about you,
I see
Cindy.
weird
Look,
I
no
was
hands.
impressed she could
Dude,
do that.
no, it's
I
fine.
was,
too.
But
I was like clapping and
you might want to
everything
tell
going,
our
"Go."
listeners what she did because
So like
Yes.
they're drinking a lot and they're on the roof alone and she's like, hey, like she pees and she's
she's
able to like
standing up.
push it so it's a stream outward.
yeah.
Yeah,
I never
you
thought I would have to
didn't
say
mention
that.
yeah,
With the twist.
And
That
Justine
is-
tries and totally fails.
Yep.
and pees all over her.
Like
Good
that,
times.
that was.
And so that's when they decide to go back to her apartment. And that's where this is where things get fun.
This is the point where I realized, oh, this is going to be like
oh yeah,
the rest of the movie.
yeah. This is where the plot shows its hand more than
Yeah.
it has. Where,
Exactly.
like sisterly activities of trying to wax. I don't know if
Bikini
that's
wax
a
your
thing.
sister.
Bikini
I don't
wax,
know,
yeah.
man.
It's French.
I'm not French and I'm not a girl. I don't know.
Exactly. But yeah, so they're bikini waxing.
Why couldn't
It-
they start with the under the arm? Especially since that's what she was pointing at first.
Yeah.
So they're doing it. It's painful, and then there comes a part where the wax won't come up. I don't know if that's a thing. We have people say that it's not a thing. I'm not sure.
My interpretation of
voucher.
that was she was still suffering that rash and it was kind of tugging on the skin.
I think that's good. I'd buy that.
I no. See, my thing is, I think the hair was way too long. Like Like,
Well, I mean, the hair was way too long.
No, that's
but
what I'm
I
saying,
also
it's
think
like
what
she-
he said is
That's
probably
why
right,
it was so
too.
much more
there
painful
has
for her.
there has been I have seen people
I've seen
who-
40-year-old virgin.
No.
I know how this works.
Well, no, I've seen people where like the hair is like it's too hard, where they do have to take scissors to cut the hair. That's why you
that-
always should
I-
trim
that
it
was a
first.
rough weekend for you, wasn't it?
I
No,
thought
definitely not.
I thought it was gonna be something like cabin fever, like they were gonna pull skin off.
I thought
I
that's
thought-
what-
I
was
thought-
just gonna
I know. I
say
was waiting for that to happen.
yeah, I was
Like, do you need this?
I'm happy you said it, not me, Jesse.
Somebody had to. But so anyway, they do get the scissors, and Justine is being a little crybaby about it. It's like, no, get away from it. Get to circumcise me with that shit. And then like she's
She freaks
flailing.
out, reflexively kicks her foot.
And then there's a bad time because like Alex looks up, she's stunned, and then it's like, oh hey, my finger's gone.
okay. I have
And
a
then she
problem
passed
with
out.
this scene.
Uh-huh.
Like I like this movie. Don't
Is
get me
it
wrong.
what we talked about before about
They-
how that'd be very difficult to do with scissors?
Yeah,
The pressure.
the
on
hand
scissors,
isn't
yeah.
that fragile. It's like
And
Maybe-
Jesse... Oh, sorry. Jesse was kind of talking about this earlier, but there's times where it feels like this movie's supposed to be dark comedy.
That part to me, I laughed at.
Yeah, and then like this scene would be the only scene I could think of that could be close.
It's because of the way she looks at her and the way she holds up her hand, like,
and then just
did you
immediately
just do
faints.
that?
Yeah.
That was great. So yeah,
Which now looking back on it, it's like, why would she?
Well, because
like,
it hurt.
Why would she faint at the sight of it?
It
Like
hurt.
she
Well,
looked
something-
at it and fainted.
she's losing blood.
Oh, I'm not a
It's
doctor.
a lot of blood.
yeah,
her
but she
own
lost a
blood.
lot more blood
Like-
by the time she woke up from that faint,
like
right?
No, I'm not a
Oh
doctor.
my
I don't know how
gosh.
it works.
If you
Okay.
have any doctors
Like,
listening,
he-
please.
In the
send
list
me
of
an
things
email.
I can buy in this movie, her fainting is not one of the ones I
Okay.
mentioned.
Yes.
people
Okay.
who have reactions. They're it's all these weird things.
Maybe it's the first time someone's made her bleed her own blood.
Please,
Yeah.
no one
Nobody-
makes me bleed my own blood.
Nobody.
So yeah, she's bleeding on the ground. Justine is freaking out, calling the cops and the ambulance, and they're like, "Oh yeah, just put ice up, and we'll be there in 15 minutes." And she's like, "Sunk minutes," and so
Of course, like
I'm
every
sorry.
other college
I'm
kid,
sorry.
they don't feel
oh, I don't know. Why I
I'm
did
sorry, everybody.
like every other college kid out there. They don't fill the ice cube trays up, so they can't put it on ice.
Truly a sign of immaturity.
that. Lots
Yes.
of drinking was going on.
I thought
Yes.
she was just gonna throw the finger in the fridge.
You also have to remember the scene
Shut
where
up.
she shoos the dog away because she has to find the finger and pick it up so the
Oh,
dog
yeah.
doesn't eat it.
Oh
Yes.
And the dog doesn't eat it.
No,
But the dog
yeah,
licked
but somebody
the blood,
else.
so-
Somebody else.
somebody else.
She gets a little taste of the blood. She's
Finally,
like, "Ooh."
her craving
not
takes
bad.
hold.
And she just goes to town on that finger, just nom 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 nom.
Finger foods.
Oh,
What-
good times.
I love the song that started playing.
No, no,
When
that,
the soundtrack
scene
was pretty
happened.
the soundtrack wasn't really noticeable for me, but that scene where the music kicks in right at the first bite.
Where she's
that,
like,
oh, that
"Oh."
didn't sound good.
That's just us.
Okay.
So yeah, she starts eating the finger. Good time. We're a cannibal movie now. I feel like we can say that. I was
Yeah,
kinda
okay, yeah.
dancing around
We were dancing about it pretty poorly, I think.
that. Pretty. But
Oh
still.
yeah, yeah. I want to apologize to the audience about my John Belushi joke because I realized I was close to spoiling
Spoiling the movie.
spoiling the movie. You
I
know,
do not remember Animal House that way. Okay.
what? You don't remember the zit scene?
No, I don't remember the part where he eats someone.
Oh, I did. I
No,
say
that just happened on set. It was like one of those on set.
I knew
stories.
Belushi was a tough act to work with, but damn.
Yeah.
So, but
It was-
okay, so she's eating the finger, and see, this is the part where I checked out a lot because not I was grossed out or anything. This part was like all I kept thinking in my head is like, there's nobody in their right mind.
How does it get to this point?
Get to this
fast?
point, yeah. Like she ate a rabbit's kidney, a raw rabbit kidney,
And then, like, ground
and then
beef.
all of a sudden she's eating human meat by the end of the week.
I would totally throw my hat into this
And
debate and say I
so-
totally disagree.
no, because that'd be like saying like
People are fucking weird.
no. But what I'm saying is, people who don't like do something like marijuana are doing crack by the end of the week. Like it's not that big of a gateway.
I
drug.
got a
not the
tattoo
same.
and
No,
now I'm
it
a
It is the same thing.
The-
It's because what we're finding out is she's addicted to eating meat now, but it doesn't just stop.
I will.
at-
I do agree with Ron that this isn't like your typical average hunger. Like she displays symptoms more closely to like a heroin
Like-
addiction.
it-
I mean, to be fair, like I want to disagree with you, but just like a dash of disagree,
A dash.
Like a little dash of disagree, because
See,
it's not like as soon as the finger came off, she was like, "Ooh, finger, no."
Yeah, 'cause
like
I
like
will-
she was looking at it and
No,
it goes,
It wasn't
lit,
until the
and then
taste
like
of
immediately.
blood
No,
that
not even just this scene. Like what's leading up to it. It's like she had a kidney thing, almost threw up. Then she's still in meat, eating her hair. It was just getting like even more crazy stuff. And then finally we get up to a human meat, and I'm just like, how fucking far do you go off the rails?
So we learn about things at the end, but for now,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Like right at this point, I said I checked
this
out.
isn't a real complaint.
I want to say that apart from that, though, I disagree because people are fucking weird.
Yeah,
but not like this.
I don't know, man.
But
I
You're
don't
the
want to
one-
say I've done research into cannibal forms for this movie,
I don't want to say I've looked up recipes, but
but
What, Jeffrey Dahmer's
for
flashcards?
another movie I watched, cannibalism came up, and I also looked into things like this, and people. I'm not saying something like this has ever directly happened, but I have said people got a taste in a way they didn't expect, and they immediately took to it.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I understand, like saying, like, hey,
And you think about,
hey,
like,
have
the,
you eaten pork because you're a Muslim or something? No, I have not. You tried pork, and then you like pork so much that you would eat it again. I don't think I would think
The way I've seen it
I
described,
would not
it's
see
not
it.
that. It can be that, but it's also like the first taste was like an intoxicating sort of thing that like immediately.
See, I checked out by this part. This is what I'm saying, like without giving away the
Gotcha.
endings and stuff. But that part, I was just like, I would have been with Sydney tonight, going like
Gotcha.
bashing this to hell.
I'll
Well,
fight this fight alone.
Gotcha. Let's do it.
Okay,
So after this, she's going to town on the finger, and then in the background, Alex slowly gets up, and she's like, "What the fuck is going on?" And then she's like, "Oh hey, that's my finger."
No, I do, because she does cry a
Yeah.
single tear.
And that's why I say I think she was
Yeah.
surprised. She wasn't expecting
was
her
sad.
to be the same.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, because like I guess
Good
I guess
job,
we
dude.
might
You
as well
fucked up.
because honestly that is the next
Shit, I'm
scene.
sorry.
The next scene is literally her going, like, they go to the hospital and they get out, and then immediately afterwards is her going. Well, actually, we should probably, because there is a couple
But
of more things. At the
I want to
hospital.
hone in on that, like the shocked reaction that she has.
single
because
tear.
Once you know,
It's like a single
later-
tear of betrayal.
Well, it's a betrayal, but it's also like on her face. I read into knowing what happens later that she's like, "Oh my god, I'm not alone."
Yeah, like a tear of joy. Almost.
Well,
Like,
also we go, or it cuts after this to the hospital, and finally we get to see.
I do
the
like
parents
the
again.
discussion with her dad.
Where he
Yeah.
says that like a dog
Once a
has to
dog
be
gets a
put
taste,
down.
it has to be put down.
And it's like,
that's-
oh, hey.
And then again,
So, foreshadowing.
It's foreshadowing, and
Yeah.
there's even more foreshadowing in that same conversation when he looks at his daughter and says, "Don't have two girls."
It's on the nose. That
Oh,
part's
super-
that part's really on the
super
nose.
on the
The
nose.
dog part's on the nose, but to me, it's like that's a believable conversation. That
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
be
yeah.
having
But
because
the-
like our dog has to be put down.
I,
She's
I
like, what?
we should also specify that she blames the finger. Both her and the sister blame the finger being gone on the dog.
Yeah, instinctively, as you would. Because how do
Instinctively.
you explain that?
It's fuck it.
And-
We'll deal with that later.
In the hospital, we have to take a moment to appreciate old guy. Somebody talk about
Oh
old guy.
yeah, he was the okay. So one of my biggest problems with the movie is I hated every single character. Not a single character or side character I liked, except for old denture guy. So they're sitting in the waiting room waiting for their sister. And, they're kind of having their typical like look at the floor, worried expressions on their face. And then Justine looks over and just sees this old guy staring at her, and he's just staring at her. And at first you think your instinctive thought in a horror movie is, oh, it's a creepy perverted old guy. And then he does that thing that old people with dentures do where he pops them out to freak you out. And she does get freaked out. She turns away.
And he just has a ball.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, though, is I wouldn't have thought anything of it. I probably would have thought, like, oh, look at this lame old cat scene. And then he starts laughing his ass off. And I immediately related to that old guy. Because I would do that in a heartbeat. And he became the one character in this movie I enjoy. I don't know if that's supposed to symbolize anything. I don't care if it does.
Oh, I don't think it does. I think it's just there.
It symbolizes a good old time.
A good old time. The good old times that are to come.
So,
I will personally say that I love the characters, but that's just me.
Yeah,
And
I do
one
too.
part where things come back into play again, where they set up and pay off, was earlier when Justine was in the bathroom vomiting up hair. She comes back out, and a girl is all like, two fingers makes it come up easier, thinking she was vomiting.
Well, because she's anorexic, which is a huge problem
Right.
over there.
So later, after this whole hospital thing, she runs out into the parking lot and tries to like vomit up the finger,
yeah,
but she fails.
With two fingers.
Yep, two fingers.
with two fingers.
She remembered.
And then after that, it shows Alex
Right.
saying,
Where
"Okay,
she's
I'm
like,
fine.
Also-
Are the parents gone?
Sorry,
Good,
sorry,
we
sorry,
gotta
sorry,
go.
sorry.
We gotta go."
The fact that she
Yep.
couldn't get the finger up is another good, like, symbolistic thing
She's
about
just
why.
like,
Well, no, well, she can't. Why? No, she can't throw up the finger is another good simplistic thing about how this addiction already has a hold of her.
Right,
She
because
can't get
like
rid of it.
she couldn't keep
I
anything
hate-
down.
Yeah.
She felt sick and nauseous, and now she's like, "Oh, the meat," and it's making her. Feel
I know it
better.
sounds like I'm praising it, but I hate ham-fisted symbolism in my
I
movies.
understand.
You should realize when I bring these things up, it's because I'm complaining.
I was gonna say it's the big old smile on your face that makes me think it's like, oh, maybe he's turning red. No, he's
No,
not.
no,
No, no.
This
just
is a
happy to
rage
complain.
smile. No, Liam's right. I love how much I hate this movie. If everyone watches this movie again, I'll probably also watch again just so I could feel this feeling.
like you
And we
watch it
do
with
our
us, and it's
assist.
like,
And we might do a revisit on this down the road or something.
So I think we're going pretty slow at this. I don't know what
That-
time.
that's
is it?
what-
No, we're about halfway through.
We're about 40 minutes into
because
it.
at this point the movie just basically becomes we'll hit the main stuff.
The hit part I want to hit now is Alex takes her out to that same country road.
Yep.
And what I mentioned earlier is like, if this was an American movie, you'd know there'd be a scene where, like, after the accident happened, she would be like, "It was you." That would happen in an American movie.
Yes.
It's like, why are you doing this?
Instead, it's just stunned confusion.
Right. It's just-
We should also specify we find out that the lady at the beginning was Alex.
Yeah,
And,
Alex is the one running out in front of cars,
And not
causing the
Justine,
crash.
and then this is the one part of the movie I will apologize for. It didn't do that in media res thing. So good for you, movie.
Yeah, good for you, movie. For
You
not
got
making
one.
it.
Yeah.
So yeah, she runs out in front of the road,
Positive.
and she's kind of trying to make Justine an apprentice, but it's like, I'm going to teach you how to do this because you're going to need to know how to do this because we have to.
We have to do it. Like,
Yeah,
there's no
it's-
stopping it.
Like, if we try to bury it down, bad thing. Like, we're
If-
bottling it up, and
I-
it's going to cause an
it's like
explosion.
I think the basic idea is and it, again, foreshadowing the movie. It's not expressly said, but I think what she's trying to tell her is you got to take it out on strangers because you don't want to hurt someone you like.
Right.
Which is a theme that pops up quite often in the movie.
And so yeah, she goes towards the car where the people are like knocked out, probably dead anyway, and she starts like nibbling.
Nibbling
Justine
right
is-
on the dude's brain. It's also worth mentioning that guy wasn't even dead. He was
Yeah.
fucked up, but he was still alive.
Yeah, and Justine's like, "Stop! What are you doing?" And she's like, "I'm doing it for you." I like that scene.
Come on, man.
Yeah.
Come on.
We're gonna eat. It's
All
gonna
right,
be, we're gonna have a buffet.
after that scene, it's basically a montage level of her walking around, just becoming more open, walking around. Also, French hip hop. I should also
French
mention how
hip-hop.
much I hate French hip hop.
Because like as she is delving into this side of herself, she's also delving into like the
Her
college
more,
side. of
her
herself.
more party side. She's wearing the revealing dress. She's going to parties.
She's listening and rocking out to a very like intense song.
a very on the nose song.
Yeah, and the words of
On
the
the
song.
nose songs.
I really wish I could have wrote the words down for the song because it's crazy.
Isn't-
I only
the
got like
tiger on the
one
nose.
verse.
Yeah, but that's why.
Huh?
Are you
I only
comparing
got
this
like
movie to
one
Rocky?
verse.
Sure.
The one verse. Okay, Liam's going to give us a part of the
one
verse.
verse. I would take a sip of water, but I already drank it. Anyway, the one of the lines I got was "fuck 6969, beast mark 666."
Also, there is.
And
I
that's
don't
it.
think that was the line.
No, that was definitely
That
a
was
lie.
part of the
He's
line.
got the spirit of the line, but
Yeah,
I think
it's-
something that is worth mentioning is like just by chance she finds a hip hop song that also alludes to cannibalism, gonna eat him up, yada yada. Of course, in
Oh
the
shit,
context,
you're right. Never
of
mind,
course,
it says on the nose.
of course, in the context of the song, it's taken more in a sexual manner, but straight up the words like. It's basically I don't know the lyrics. I wasn't paying attention. I hated the song, but it was basically talking about find the guy, love him, kill him, and then there's straight up references to eating the corpse and stuff like that.
Speaking of the guy, she goes out after this scene and finds her sister and Adrian playing video games
Gay
together.
roommate. We need to specify gay roommate.
Gay roommate, yes.
The
because-
fact that he's gay is
who's
super important. One of my biggest
gay?
problems
Uh-huh.
with
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah,
Well, and I can. We'll go back to that.
We'll go
too.
back to that.
Go ahead.
so he has to leave, and then they start talking, and one of the lines I appreciated in this was like, "Well, if you're going to experiment, did you have to do it with my finger?" I thought that was.
That was again on the nose, but a joke. I can accept that.
Well, I'd probably say that if it happened to me. I'd be like, "Come on, man, you had to take the best one too. I need this."
Yeah,
It was the middle finger, by the way.
yeah.
And so after the scene, is this where she goes to the like crazily lit hallway and
Well,
finds like the paint party?
Yeah, well, that's what I was gonna say.
Well,
you can already tell, like, kind of like how we were saying, like, you can see she is changing. She's not the same.
And then, of course, it's also worth mentioning that all of a sudden Alex is hanging out with the boyfriend. This isn't like there's not established that they know each other.
Well, no, it is set up before because it's set up before that she hates him
Yeah,
for some reason.
I don't remember that. Scene.
It happens.
All right.
it's
Again, blind rage.
Because
Yeah.
I think she, even in the scene, she directly says, "It's like I thought you hated him," and she's like, eh.
Yeah, Okay, so yeah, the hazing continues with the blue and yellow paint.
Was that hazing? I thought that was just
No,
a
that was
project.
that was just generic French sex party.
Yeah.
I don't know
Hey,
why.
Oh, I
It's
thought it was.
just-
I thought it was
Don't-
part of the hazing.
Don't you hate it when you go to the store to go get milk, then all of a sudden you're involved with hazing?
It's France. I expect that sort of.
Yeah. Okay, and the guy painted in yellow, he looked insanely creepy.
Yeah.
Like Sin City, that yellow bastard creepy.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. That's just a dumb party.
This
Yeah.
the
It's a
character
lame.
was introduced earlier, but he didn't really do anything of importance. They start making out in the bathroom, is why I bring it up. It's
Yeah.
not completely out of nowhere. He
She-
was set up in the
He was
barracks.
Was
set
she-
up. Was he
she-
the one they were talking to?
about aliens
Because like
and monkeys.
yeah, because that was the whole thing. That was another reason why like this movie was super on the nose. Because like the very first conversation you have in the college is the gay man talking to some moron about AIDS monkeys, and then the gay guy having a really like
Yeah.
dead look in his face. Like, am I really having this conversation?
Kind of had that look a lot, though. I got that
did.
was just kind of his vibe. Yes, he was more angrier than usual.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, they start making out, and it's kind of super awkward because she's like sort of pushing him away, but sort of
She's
not.
sort of
Yeah.
into it.
And so he's sort of like creeping on her, and then
Yellow card,
Yeah, yellow
new
card.
sports reference.
And then
Thanks for the soccer reference. Liam.
You're welcome.
and then we get a nice scream. Then he runs out with like part of his lip missing. It's like she fucking bit me.
It's a
she's-
chunk.
That,
Yeah.
Now I will admit that was actually for a movie that I'll complain was really drab and colorless. I did like the idea of like they're covered in red or green.
and it's mixing.
No, no,
Yeah,
no.
the yellow
Yellow and blue. The
green.
mixing thing I thought was kind of cheesy and lame. I didn't
Well,
like
they
it.
had to
But no. It was the red, the shiny red on the yellow paint. I thought that was a cool
gotcha.
scene.
Yeah, I did like that.
He started doing it and you can't stop.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're seeing the changing and blah blah blah, and then jump to the weird sex with the roommate.
With the gay roommate.
That
gay
you skipped a
roommates.
scene.
What scheme did we?
I lied. It's next. Continue.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, so France is a sexually liberal place, and I'll be the first to say, I'd be the first to say you don't have to pick one or the other. But he was so many of the characters. Granted, I know it's kind of a theme. Is a lot of the characters are super violently this, but secretly they're that as well. So this character is violently gay. Like one of the first scenes you see him in, he's getting a blowjob from a dude, and then in the scene we're talking about now, it's just straight up him watching gay porn and getting ready to jerk off. And then lady comes in, tells her about his time, like her experience at the pink party.
He was like, "Did he force you?" And she's like,
Not really. And then she leaves, and then he turns the porn back on, whatever. And then all of a sudden she runs in and says it's really bad, and then cut to hardcore sex scene between the two,
She just couldn't keep it in.
which
and it's animalistic sex.
Oh, yeah.
biting, punching, it was
Lots
kind
of biting.
lots of
Yes.
biting.
And that's why I'll say,
And
I
I
will
feel
say in this movie's sort of defense of how it portrays him, because I will say it is kind of off that he's like so. I don't want to say into this, but he like accepts it very quickly.
yeah.
But he is pushing her away at several times.
That is
Yeah, no, but
He's a loving, caring
It's not
member
just
of
because of the
society.
biting. Like,
That
I
is-
can
that
see
is
the
true.
acting in his face where he's like, "I'm not sure if I want to do
I
this."
think, and I think part of it, it's that college mentality. Like he's probably saying, "This is the last time. See if I truly am this."
And that's why I didn't mind the
And-
porn or anything, because it's just
Yeah.
like it's college. It's
You
funny.
know,
Yeah, granted, my personal experience wasn't the same as everyone else's, so I can't say this for everyone.
It would bother me if it was his only characterization. I don't think it's his only characterization.
Granted, I did like him because he's one I shouldn't say super rare because it's becoming more common, but he was one of the less common depictions of a macho gay man.
Yeah.
Normally, movies like this,
Like
you
he's
get the
super
really.
buff.
Yeah,
he's
normally,
athletic.
movies like this, you get the super feminine dyed hair.
And he's kind of like, I don't know, like dude macho aggressive.
Yeah,
at
yeah,
times.
he's
Like,
really
where he's like
growly.
headbutting that dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just the rules of soccer.
Yeah.
But anyway,
There
and
you
like
It's France.
Yellow
like-
card, it's football.
football. Oh god.
So in the sex scene, she keeps biting at him, and I read it as towards the end of the scene where she climaxes,
When she finishes.
and she's biting into her own arm. I saw that as her doing that so she didn't bite him.
exactly. That's
That-
what I saw too.
That's what it is too. But I also think she got off on him fighting
She
back.
definitely did.
Because
Oh, yeah.
the
Because it's
she
the
didn't
animal
she
stuff.
didn't
Yeah, you
like
said animalistic, and that's very
Yeah.
much what this was.
well whenever someone tried to do it with her in I guess what you normally call a normal way like it though when it was really super oh god I'm just trying to find my words here. Jesse, you nervously drink your water there.
Nervous.
in every scene where like normal sex was about to happen, she wasn't into it. And it wasn't until it became more violent and brutal and pushing back.
As she's awakening as a cannibal, she's awakening as a person.
As a human being, yeah.
Okay, so the next thing I kind of want to touch base.
I should also mention, because my biggest problem with the scene wasn't necessarily because like I almost felt like because the acting was so different and this particular side of this character was so sudden and you never see it again. That scene where they're in the library and she confronts him about the night before,
And he's like,
and he has that really violent outburst.
That's what I was going to say. We need to move on to the next day where it's like,
if that scene almost felt like it was tacked on. Like I was like, oh, we need to explain this kind of thing. And I do like what they were going for with like him kind of having the
like
reverse.
he's conflicted about it too.
Well, I did enjoy because it was kind of the reverse confliction that you normally get. Where normally it's I'm into ladies, but the way he acted in that particular scene was so much different than he was, and you never really see that side of him again. It almost felt like that scene was tacked on afterwards, and I probably wasn't. I don't know anything about this movie's production, but
I could see why you would read it that way. I might have had a similar thought where there are so many movies where you get that vibe where it's like they wrote this part afterwards because they were like, well, we should probably
explain
justify this.
Yeah.
And I don't really view that as a bad thing.
No, not really, but it didn't. I only see it as a bad thing when it doesn't feel like part of the movie.
Right.
And this did to me personally.
That's totally fair.
Yeah, it didn't feel like part of the movie.
I mean, it felt like an awkward part of life because, like, you know, even though this is a cannibal movie, this is also a coming of age
story.
So, like, you know, in high school, you've had awkward situations. We've all had them. So it's like
awkward cannibal.
Yeah,
It's happened to the best of us.
Yes, happens to the best of us. It sucked. Homecoming, you know, all that fun stuff.
I can't believe I ate my date.
Yeah, right.
And your whole family.
It sucks.
But it disposes of the evidence. So
yeah, so it all.
Plus, you have an easy out where it's like you just dump the body in the woods, and their cop's first reaction isn't, "Oh, look, this person was killed." It was, "Oh, look, this person was mauled by animals."
Yeah. So Adrian like has the sex, the coitus with Justine. Then Justine like bites in her arm, leaves like blood all over your bed. You don't want to talk about that the next day,
man.
And then like she awkwardly brings it up.
That'd be the first
that'd be the first thing Jesse tells everybody. He calls up his mom and be like, "Guess what?
Guess what? Okay. Well, I'm not throwing Jesse in.
What I meant was, next day in class, I'd be like, sorry about blood, man.
So about last night.
I wouldn't want to bring this up, and then like she's like, "Wow, thanks for like not talking to the lady you just deflowered," and then she says the word deflowered too. So
Now,
like,
granted,
Granted, so it might not have been exactly.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though. Is that could have just been an awkward translation. The translation on the subtitles themselves seemed more literal instead of less literal.
How people like actually talk.
Yeah.
So, and there's no way for us to know that because we're not fluent in French.
I don't speak French.
Like, for all I know, the acting in this was 10 out of 10, and for all I know, the acting in this was garbage.
That's why 4 movies are great. It can be terrible, and you'll never know.
Exactly.
You'll never know. So,
all right.
it's like,
So next.
Okay. So
we should get to the next part.
So
is it the party?
It's the party where like about the videos being showed like of her.
Well, she goes to a party and she's totally into it. Like, it's the complete opposite of how the first
the beginning of it.
Yeah.
She was drinking.
She's total
making out on people.
Solo cups were filling up with vodka.
That's what I'm saying.
Like I looked at it and I thought that's too much.
But now
I have been to parties like this.
But this is showing.
It was glorious.
This is showing that she's continuing change. Like she's now evolved to, what she has become now.
And Alex takes advantage of this.
Yes. Very much.
Most fucked up way I've
It is real fucked up.
Hell yeah!
All right, go ahead and tell him how she fucked up.
Well, okay, I actually like this part of the direction how she leads her into the morgue and then it cuts.
Immediate cut
like,
black. I will
she's
admit,
just passed out on her bed.
This
like,
part was
God,
also
party.
all right.
And so she has no memory of anything that happened after
Adrian was the one that showed her on the phone. So.
Well, yeah, she goes to class.
It's not even a cut.
Everyone is like,
it's not even a cut to black. It's like smash cut to her the next day in bed.
And she sits down to somebody in class, and the person is just like looking at her like the most disgusting piece of shit. Just
and backs away. And I got to say, that lady, she looked a lot like the person who played MJ in the new Spider-Man
Zendaya?
movie.
Oh shit! I
But like an
didn't see
older,
Definitely
but,
wasn't her.
but-
Yeah,
no,
she
it
was
wasn't her,
very
but it looked just like her, like an older version of her. It was kind of weird.
Was it a
It was
French
very-
version?
Probably. I don't know.
So yeah, after she gets out of class, Adrian takes her away, and she's like, "I gotta show you this," and he shows her the video, and the video is everyone's gathered around, and the morgue. What do you call those? Like gurneys?
I just call them corpse closets.
Yeah, corpse closet's open, and a body is out for everyone to see, and Alex is just dangling an arm above like a
It's a gurney.
totally, completely wasted,
And she's not
Justine.
just wasted. She's straight up
She's-
acting like a rabid dog.
Yeah, she's
like just nipping at it, trying to like claw
on
at
all
it.
fours, trying to stand up.
it's primal at this point. Like she's
It's
like,
hard grained into who she
Yeah,
is.
who
Like
she
her
is,
lizard
yeah.
brain.
Well,
was
she's
it.
also like the vodka's hitting her hard.
Yeah,
well,
that's
that, but I think it's,
But
I think
like,
it's,
that's the
I
thing,
think it's very
like the-
primal
and she's
too.
and she's drunk as fuck. She's running on her lizard brain
Yeah.
basically, and
Potato
it's
juice
that
can do
far
that.
in. That's what she wants.
And this leads to Mortal Kombat.
Oh yes,
Mortal
yes, yes.
Kombat.
I knew that was gonna happen.
The anime rival battle happens.
Oh my goodness!
Which is my favorite part of any anime.
That part was pretty cool. I don't know. It was. I wish it was more visceral than it was. Where I say that, seeing what happened, it should have been more brutal. This movie never really got as brutal as I wanted.
I
it
would
to.
say that was pretty fucking brutal that she got a chunk of her cheek taken out.
Yeah, but like considering the subject matter and what the movie's going for, it never got as brutal as it should have.
Yeah, but I think
really hard to
I,
bite
I
through
think
clothes.
no, I
Yeah.
think and even
But you see
though
the chopped through
they were
fingers.
biting each other and stuff,
Yeah,
they didn't want
rules
to
are
really hurt each
inconsistent.
other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like
it's
because
a-
there was the sibling.
Now,
battle.
I will say it's a sibling fight, and I've had
Yeah,
lots
yeah.
of fights with my younger siblings, and while they get like choke slammed into tables,
Exactly.
it's never like I'm gonna kill you.
Or put you in the hospital or something.
If we haven't explained this enough, like she hunts down Alex and like doesn't even
Oh,
say
yes,
a
yes,
word,
yes.
just beats
Yeah.
the
Just
shit out
straight
of her
up
right away, just
beats
grabbing
her,
hair,
beat
throwing her
down.
to the ground. Everyone's like, "Whoa!" Pulling out their phones.
There's
It's a
some
great
wipeouts
time.
in this movie.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. And so the bout is initially broken by Alex biting at the cheek. She's the first one to bite. And
Yeah,
she's
that
like, "Come
was
at me,
terrible.
bro."
Terrible bite.
She's
And then-
almost daring her to do it back.
Also,
Like,
also the fact that Alex was the one that bite first, I think, is really nice because it shows that Alex, obviously, even though she has the air of control, it shows that she actually has.
oh,
less.
she's going through the exact same
Well,
thing.
it's not she's going to. She has way less control.
Mhm.
She's the one who goes into the morgue in the first place and pulls the body out.
Ooh, that's true.
Well,
That's true. I like
but
that.
here's the thing: you say that she has a lot of control, but
No, I said she
next-
has less control.
oh, less control. Oh, okay, I see
Yeah.
what you're saying.
Pay attention,
Okay.
Ron.
Sorry, mother.
Keep up.
So, keep up, son.
They basically just clamp into each other at the
Yeah.
end of the fight, just like drawing
This
blood,
is
just
like-
teeth both like
Yeah.
sinked as deep into the wrist.
And,
of the
and
widow.
This
again,
is
I know-
horn versus horn. Like
Obviously, honestly, what I'd compare this movie to is a werewolf movie without werewolves.
I compared it to a vampire movie without vampires.
But anyway, the
gloomy,
though the
too.
reason why I say that is because they're straight up treated like dogs. Like the way the
Oh,
fight
yeah,
stops
yeah.
Love that.
isn't by someone separating them. It's about kids taking their scarves,
Well, that's
wrapping
the
around
thing.
their necks,
It's
and
like,
pulling them off.
well, they do pull them away.
those dog catcher things.
They do pull them away, but like the biting goes on for a long time, and you can see their expressions kind of change as it goes on. Because first it's like I'm gonna fucking kill you, but then,
And then
like
the
afterwards it's
Alex
like
kind of smiles.
yeah, there's kind of like an understanding between both of them, not just Alex.
yeah, but the
And-
Alex is the one I noticed.
She is.
I
She
didn't
is.
notice the other one.
But then, yeah, they're pulled away, and then it like completely shifts from like I'm gonna kill you to it's like it's just you and me now.
bandaging
Yeah.
each
Yeah,
other.
like they just like walk away arm in arm, like
So yeah, and so after this, they they go off to their
Patch each
own
other
little
up.
corners and stuff, and
Lick their wounds.
then of course we see Justine in bed with Adrian. Yet
The
again.
finale.
No. We get to the finale. It's worth mentioning that. No. This is actually important setup.
Okay.
This is actually super important
Okay,
setup.
go ahead, man.
Don't freak out on me. I know what I'm doing. Alex doesn't go back to her room. She falls asleep in
Yeah.
Justine's bed, and Justine closes the door on her.
Oh, I guess that's true.
And there's a scene where she contemplates locking the door, but she doesn't.
Right.
She decides, I'm going to trust her.
forgot
You know,
about
we
that
went
part.
we went through all this
You're right.
trouble. I'm going to trust her this one time.
you've been trying to help me, and I
Yeah.
sort of appreciate it.
And then so she decides to go sleep in what's his name's bed,
Adrian.
Adrian's bed.
Now the finale.
Now the finale.
So Justine is waking up, having a good time, peeling the bandage off her face, and she's like, "Oh hey, Adrian, how's it going?" And then she's like, "Hey, the bed's kind of wet."
re-
Oh my god!
She reached down. She pulled up
Shakes
a
him.
handful
He
of
doesn't
blood.
wake up. shakes him again. He doesn't wake up. Then she pulls up the handful of blood.
Yeah.
There's a giant chunk missing out of his leg.
It's like
a
shark's
perfect
leg.
leg.
Yeah, like right when it exposed the leg, you see blood come out of Adrian's mouth, meaning he's dead.
And
he's gone.
Well, one thing I will say I like.
I didn't like
Yeah, the generic.
because
that
I was like,
blood out
so
of.
it didn't until that.
It's
So-
yeah, you
and
gotta
then
post the body first.
Plus, blood out of the mouth is almost as bad as in a movie when someone dies and they just go. But anyway,
So I would have preferred they didn't
It's,
have that.
it's,
Well, really,
it's
I
for
think-
those people who think, Adrian could still be alive. He could cover that, and then like
Well,
blood.
if it was
and it's
just
like
the
no.
leg,
if it was just the leg, it would have been fine.
blood out.
But one thing I do think is an important character trait
Oh,
is
I forgot.
Alexis. Is her name? What is her name?
Alexa.
No.
Or
The little sister, the main character.
Justine.
Fuck. Justine's initial reaction is, "I did this.
Yeah, she's
this was
sure
my
she did it.
mistake."
She's like, why didn't you fight back?
and then
You
yeah,
should've
and
why
then
didn't you
she
fight
tries
back? Yeah.
pawning the blame off on what's his name, Adrian.
Like this is
You
your
al-
fault.
You almost have this done.
I thought that
Come
was
on,
very
home stretch.
natural.
But then
of
we
her
find out-
that reaction.
The true death.
Because there's a big old hole in his back.
Yep, and caused by the foreshadowing of the
Ski
pole.
Good old, the best character in the movie, Mr. Ski Pole.
And
It
Alex
was there
is,
the whole time, guys.
Alex is just sitting covered in blood,
I
playing
should
some video games.
I don't know if this was an intentional art thing or not, but she was playing the same video game you're introduced to her playing with Adrian.
Mm-hmm.
This could have been a thing. I don't know. Probably not.
He's
Maybe
a
they're
college
poor
kid.
col-
It might be the only.
Well, I say
game
maybe
he
they're
has.
poor college kids and that's all they can afford.
Probably. So yeah, she lost control and totally omnommed her sister's sort of boyfriend.
Sort of gay boyfriend.
It's weird.
of gay
Life's weird.
Life sucks. But anyway.
So she considers killing her by putting
that scene. I will, and again, I keep saying I will admit a lot, but that scene where she holds the ski pole up to her head, and
yeah.
the sister's not even fighting.
Oh,
back.
yeah,
she's
she's-
almost
yeah,
because she knows she fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that, and I think also she's kind of like in a daze. Like she's like, because I mean the whole thing was like even when they were showering, it's like she wasn't moving, she wasn't talking, she was catatonic.
Yeah,
I think this is the first time it's ever been this personal.
Yeah.
Like all the people she had killed before
Yeah.
or
was
strangers
like,
on the road.
Yeah.
And
And she could even say that she didn't kill them. It was like a car accident. Whereas this was the first time she was like stabbed.
yeah, and then one thing to say is like, and also admittedly, this is also I feel like this is the first time you get a look into someone like not right after, but after they eat somebody, and the whole time obviously there's a lot of parallels drawn to drug addiction.
So do you think? Okay, so at this point, I wanted to go back to. Do you think that she killed him out of hate that she hated him, or hated the fact that like maybe like I don't want you near my sister?
I think she always planned on killing him because she didn't like him.
Yeah.
And then she kind of realized that her sister did like him, and that kind of forced her to stop a little bit. But at this point, it was already like
Dude, we can see the
hardwired.
fucking bone.
Yeah.
I'd say she would, like Sydney said, she had less control than Justine did, and that this whole like. She's been kind of running on a high ever since she found out that Justine was like her too, and that probably made her more brash. Like we see in the fight that she's cutting more loose than she probably does normally. And I think that's kind of where it starts. Like something's clicking in her brain where she's like, her inhibitions are going away. And
Yeah,
so
I was.
the bloodlust drove her to be like, oh hey, food.
So one thing that's worth mentioning that we didn't is she doesn't kill her sister. Justine does not kill Alex.
She picks her up and like,
washes her off
off the
and-
blood.
Yeah.
In the nude shower scene that is mandatory in every French movie
Fuck
ever.
yes.
Every
Damn
French
right.
every
We
And in every
demand it.
fighting movie ever.
We
And I'm
demand
counting
it.
this as well.
We demand that fucking
I-
shower scene.
I was thinking of this one French movie where it was like, hold on, I'm gonna prove you wrong, but I just remember that it did have one.
Yep.
But it wasn't sexy, it was funny.
Then we cut
they all
to
are.
As they all
Okay,
are.
then we
so-
cut to Alex in prison with
Yeah.
a lovely
Alex goes to
shot,
prison.
in my personal opinion, of their faces like mirrored together perfectly.
No,
So
that-
you don't know who's gonna be in
That
prison.
was a
until-
good shot, and I said that was
Oh,
a
we
good
knew.
shot, but at that point I hated
Oh, I
the movie
know.
enough that I was like, oh, fuck you, movie.
How dare you?
Shut up, movie.
So yes, Alex is in prison,
Yeah.
and she seems somewhat well adjusted. It's not like she's just a rabid animal. She's like, oh hey.
At this
bye.
point, she realizes she fucked up.
Yep.
She
And
fucked up.
flips her off one last time, but in a loving way.
In a loving way, in the Mr. Rogers.
And of course, the parents yet again are back there, and
they're weirdly cool about it.
Yeah, they're
that's
weird.
Your, that's your first
surprised.
They are surprised, but they're weirdly cool about it, and I think that's your first hint of what's going on.
And of course, now we are at the house, and they're eating a vegetarian meal.
And she's like, "Eat all your damn vegetables. You're not leaving until you do."
Yeah, like this mother is like still like on her, like there's something really bothering her, and like the most.
And the best part about this is you realize why the dad has a little messed up scar on his.
No, I like that.
See, I didn't even notice that till the end too.
Yeah,
I did because he kind of like I noticed it when he was talking about the dog, and my first thought was, well, he's a vet. Probably got bit by a dog. Because I've met someone who worked in a veterinary's office in high school, and he had a massive scar on his lip from when he got bit by a dog.
And that would explain why he mentioned we have to put the dog down because he tasted human flesh.
And so he's all like, "Oh, it wasn't her fault, and it wasn't." Well, I mean, he first says it wasn't Justine's fault, and she's like, "I know," and then he's like, "It wasn't Alex's fault either," and she's like, "The fuck are you talking about?" And he's like, he explains a bit of the backstory about how. What does he say?
He said that the mother
they met in school.
They met in school, but she was trying to push him away, and he wanted to date her or whatever. And of course, when he got close,
I was meaning the stuff about Alex. Where he says like she was always bombastic and bright and like run for politician because she just had that personality, and he got too comfortable with herself.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Again, at this point, I wasn't paying that close attention.
Okay, yeah. Well, that's basically what he's saying. That he's basically saying it was their fault because they didn't oversee her enough to prevent this sort of thing from happening because they knew what was happening because he unbuttons his shirt and the father does, and you see that he's all sorts
covered
of scars,
in scars,
all dry scabs,
and it's like, oh, it's hereditary.
Yeah. So the basic reveal is the mother, and by extension, you assume every woman on that side of the family is has a weird desire to eat flesh.
Yep.
And the husband just kind of learned to accept that.
And this is the part of the movie where I'm like, you know what? This movie was awesome because it works because I know it's hereditary.
I would have enjoyed that twist more if the makeup work on that guy's scar outfit was better.
I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice that either.
The makeup was bad. Like you could see the line on his neck.
I didn't.
And it wasn't like the scars stop here line. It was like here's where the makeup stops line. You know. And I would have because at
logically they are trying to avoid anything that would be noticed.
Yes, but when you see a bad makeup job in a shitty '80s B movie, peels off, that's what was happening.
Okay,
I could accept the scars just stop. That's not what it was.
Gotcha.
Okay, so right now, of course, we reached the end of the movie. I just want to say IMDb has this at a 7.6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes has it at a 91.
No, I'm happy for them.
Which I will say this:
fuck Rotten Tomatoes.
I hate Rotten Tomatoes, and they are shit towards horror movies. So I'm so shocked about this movie.
Yeah, and then
it's
artsy-fartsy.
And then
I've seen artsy-fartsy horror movies. This is lower.
And then
it's not trying that hard to be artistic.
It's just French.
Yeah,
the Metacritic.
It's just natural.
The Metacritic gave it an 81%. So at this point, we are going to go around the table, not starting with Sid because we know he's going to bash it.
Do we not want to talk about other things though?
Oh,
looking back now.
Well, I figured we could do that.
We could do that.
We give our you talk about some aspects you have, and then you give your rating.
Well, real fast, you said earlier that the reason why they were doing things, I wanted to throw that they're all vets because they're trying to find a way to fix this. Because he
that is
says,
a good way of looking at that.
I know you'll fix this. That's the last line he says to her, or something along the lines.
Why do they have to be vets to do it? Because that. Okay, well, we'll get to it.
Because it's more animal urges, maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah, they're probably looking into they're trying to figure out the whole what is it, the primal thing for them. Maybe they could find a cure.
they're not learning they're not scientists. They're learning how to fix hurt horses.
But technically, they are scientists if they worked with animals. They could discover something about.
And this is just her first year. She could go into
she could go into whatever we want.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, you got to think dogs were, originally not. What is it? They were savage things. They weren't domesticated, and so maybe they were trying to figure a way to
domesticate ourselves.
Exactly.
Do you know what if earlier in the movie, the professor was like, "Oh, look, it's Justine. I'm so excited to see your papers since your mom was like the best student in this school." So, like, would you think that's the reason why her mother was so good? Was because she was like going through
She was driven to find a way to...
everything trying to get this
Yeah.
Like,
this
fine,
to happen.
fine. I
Which-
get that's a good excuse for them being nurses, or for them being vets.
Vet nurses.
I've only had one. I shouldn't be this bad. For them being vets, but granted, I don't know what school is like in Europe. I don't know if there's like some weird undercurrent that we're not getting just simply because we're not from that country. But why send them to that school where they know the norm is making people eat meat, and like, why would her parents take that risk? And I know they'd probably have to tell her eventually or explain it. But isn't there safer ways to do it than to force her to go through the same thing they went through?
If there's one criticism of this movie from my brain, I think you just nailed it. Like, that is a fair point, that they explicitly, because it said that both parents went there,
They
and
know.
they would have known this.
And it's like I agree
It's not,
with you.
it's not just explicitly said they went there. It's explicitly said they went through with the ritual.
This
Okay.
is me working for the movie. Like, you know how, like, it's opposite nitpicking, like, building info for the movie. Maybe the mother approached the whole cannibalism thing a different way, and, like, she didn't get that first bite that made her like it grow in a certain way, so she didn't expect it to happen that way.
Even if she was more,
Because they didn't know Alex was like this.
even if she was more open and more accepting and whatever, then why hide it like this for so long?
So
Like, why not get it right out in the open and be like, "Hey, you're probably gonna feel something."
Because then we
Well,
wouldn't
maybe-
have a movie.
maybe-
because then we wouldn't have a movie.
the only way I can see this happening is like, the father mentioned how strong-willed Alex was. So like they're like, "Oh, okay, she's so strong-willed, she can obviously fight this." And like, spoiler alert, she doesn't. And then
She
like
doesn't.
they do just
we're way
then
beyond
like they
spoilers,
have
dude.
Yeah.
Justine, and they're like, "Okay, Justine isn't like Alex. Maybe she can fight this." And then like, no.
I wonder what
So-
Alex's first taste was.
Well, see, yeah, and that would
I
be
bet it
another
started
movie.
exactly the same way.
Yeah,
Like that. Oh,
Like,
But-
Maybe.
but see, here's the thing. Like, mom,
and that's probably why she forced her to do it, to see if the same thing would
I
happen
do
to
like
her.
my reading though of like her like trying to be like a good older sister.
I can see the mom like forcing Alex to go to this
Yeah, no, you're
college.
right. Like a miss. Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Like, I can't figure this out. I need to send you because we just need to find.
No,
something
because
to
I do
fix
actually I do
this.
kind of get that. Like those stories of like misguided older brothers who like, oh well, my little brother or sister's going to get the drugs anyway. I might as well show them how to do it right and safe. So no, I do
Well,
get that.
the mother somehow stopped doing what she was doing because
I
she
imagine-
found a way to curb that without eating
By eating
people.
her husband.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
no, I imagine it's literally the same as like someone who quits smoking when they have kids, where it's like, well, I'm gonna have to stop now, and then that's the drive. To
and
get
you
them
were
to quit.
saying like, why would you send your daughters there? Because at first they probably assumed that Alex wasn't going to be like mom because they probably didn't hear any of the horror stories about Alex or anything, and because that's why Alex didn't show up because they don't know about Alex.
There you go. Maybe like the
You
mother
know?
was trying to fix herself,
Yeah.
and just kind of assumed.
And she's
that
like,
the
"Oh,
daughters
okay, well,
weren't
see,
going to follow in her
Alex." So
footsteps.
she was probably like, "Alex is okay, so that means
Like,
it's not hereditary,
maybe-
or it wasn't passed down. So let's go ahead and allow Justine to go." And Justine could have been like, "I want to go, be there with my sister." or
Because
something.
Justine wanted to go more than Alex did, I assume.
Yeah.
Because we see that she's like a better student because she's
Uh-huh.
like fixing Alex's paper at one point, and she's like, "Fuck off."
Maybe the mom didn't know anything about the grandma. So, or the grandma.
We don't know
so,
how far
like,
this goes.
Yeah,
back.
we
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
know.
we
I
don't know.
don't- yeah.
So like that just brings up further debate
Mm-hmm.
for this movie because like this is a legitimate problem that like Sydney pointed out. So
I will
know
say
the
this.
answer that we kind of came to.
This
I
is
don't
the
like it.
first
I don't
horror
find it
movie.
satisfactory though, because if it
I did.
if it was the answer, then why wasn't it hinted at any time in the movie?
That's
See,
fair.
Because like
Okay,
you can
that's fair.
speculate all you want, but it doesn't fix bad
Right.
writing.
But
I don't know if I'd go so far as to say bad writing.
I'm being unfair.
what are you guys
Like,
talking
yeah,
about?
Not
but
unfair.
this-
It's just bad writing is a strong word.
This is
Yeah.
the first horror movie where there's no plot holes. So I mean, we're good.
No plot holes at all.
at all.
And Ron just declared it, so it must be true.
And I will admit that some of the shock value was probably kind of lost on me. This movie felt like it was made for city people, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, you used to.
City boss!
Well, no, but I mean, like, specifically, there's lots of scenes where they do weird shit to animals, like the surgery scene on the horse, where they put the horse down and they string it up. I feel like
That was cool.
Yeah, it was cool, but I feel like the thing is this movie was meant for city people to watch, like them city folk, and like they see the horse getting strung up for surgery, and then like the person who grew up in like New York or LA or whatever is like, what's going on? What are they doing that to the horse for? And then like the other scene where like she's got to, let's just say, clear the blockage from the cow, and her she's shoulder deep into it. Like that. I feel like that's meant for people who are more like not used to like the stuff that it comes involved with raising livestock.
And to be fair, like, total disclaimer, we have no understanding of like French cultural norms or expectations.
No, but
so there
that's-
could be a lot of undercurrents that we just don't.
No, of course. But I mean, like,
No, I get
people
what-
who
yeah.
grew up in the city, because like I lived in a big city till I was 9, and then I moved right to a farm, so it was right to that stuff. And then after a while, you kind of become immune to it almost immediately, which is the weird part when it comes to stuff. Like, when you're actually there, when it comes to weird animal farm shit, you're just kind of like, whatever. But so I don't know. And the thing is I feel like I would feel better about it knowing whether or not the director or the writer was from either a big city and saw it and was like, what's this horrible stuff people do to animals? Or if she was a farmer and was like, let's just do this to scare some city folk.
I have in my watch later queue on YouTube a 20-minute interview with the director and the main actress, and I didn't watch it. So for all we know, all of the answers are there.
Because like they're
that would be
vets, but the
perfect
only
for a
time
review.
was of course a review of this series. But like of course one of the things you probably even link to it in the podcast notes or something. But one of the things like the only time you see them working on animals is livestock. So that's why I see. Like, granted, they do like an autopsy, a dissection of a dog.
And that could play into things since you mentioned like how they kind of reminded you of dogs or wolves or that sort of thing.
And like, and of course, this is my interpretation of it. And honestly, I could be completely wrong. But there's that old French thing about. I don't know if it's a stereotype or what, but the whole idea that they eat a lot of cruel food, like foie gras and veal and stuff like that.
So this is just like that taken to the absolute
Well, no,
extreme.
I think it could be seen as commentary for it, and the fact that it's French could just be coincidence, or could be intentionally that. I don't know. I guess we might as well get to our ratings now. I give this movie like a 2 out of 10. I didn't.
Oh, you already want to go
you
jump?
ju-
You just jumped.
Okay.
This movie, I didn't like this movie
You
at all.
So-
gutter snipe.
So with
you.
a 2 out of 10, is this a movie you would watch again?
He said for the hate.
For the
Yeah.
hate. Like, if I was with other people who liked the movie, I would watch it just so I could
Like,
ruin it for
Like
them.
you would land on the couch saying, "Look at these assholes watching this
Look at these
shitty-ass
assholes.
movie."
I'd watch people watch this movie and be mad at them.
So
Just like stop enjoying yourself.
But the thing is, I call it a 2. It wasn't even a good 2. Like there was a bunch of like, you're filming in the French countryside. You had plenty of great opportunities to film beautiful vistas, and I get that the movie's supposed to feel grimy
then-
and grungy
I was gonna say
And sterile.
and sterile because it's a
You
doctor
can
training.
argue why do they film certain movies in the shitty parts of New York where there's nice parts of New York?
Yeah,
I mean,
but
it just
even,
happens.
But even shitty parts of New York have more character than concrete walls. Like if this movie looks like they filmed it in a parking garage.
They probably did.
And like the thing is the few times you did get to see the outside was when when they were doing shit to the cars.
Yeah, that was awesome.
If we would have got more horrible stuff juxtaposed to beautiful French countryside, I probably would have liked that a bit more than just twice.
I will provide like a little bit of a counter argument and say that I am not an artistic, like my brain isn't a good brain, but I am sure that the setting was not by accident.
No, I'm sure it wasn't, but
and I don't know what the reason is.
and of course, if the folks here would have been able to listen to our amazing first episode about Witch, they would understand my bias towards my dislike for gray movies. You have a movie, you have the ability to do whatever
That's
you
fair.
want.
I will say that the color of this movie leaves something to be desired.
If I wanted to see more gray, boring buildings, I'd move back to Topeka.
Don't. Sorry, is it me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I am on the complete other side of the spectrum.
Fuck you, Jesse.
I love this movie. Talking about it has actually only increased my love. Has
Damn.
talking about it increased your hate?
It hasn't increased my hate, but it brought up more things I didn't even realize.
Gotcha.
So when you lean that to a 3?
No.
Like I said, one of my favorite movies of the year that it came out. For me, I don't know if there's ever been a cannibal movie I like even half as much as this, and I love cannibal movies, but like they're all so trashy. This one to me felt a lot more relatable, and to put a spin on this that I haven't seen a cannibal movie take before.
It was nice seeing a cannibal movie that wasn't traditional Rob Zombie schlock.
Hey, so
Hey, back off, Sydney.
I know.
Am I wrong?
Bork, bork, bork. No, back off.
I agree with both of you. So yeah, personally speaking, like it was one of my favorite horror movies that's come out in the last few years. Everything, the acting was phenomenal. I liked how everything was reincorporated in the writing. It was a very tight movie in that way, and I know how that can feel like very forced in some ways, but to me at the time I was watching it, I never got the vibe of like, oh, they were shoving this down my throat.
I guess my problem is I don't like movie directors and writers treating me like I'm an idiot who needs to be spoon-fed everything.
See, I don't think this movie did that, because there are several parts of this movie where they didn't, and like the foreshadowing was very much a common thing, but it was never like...
They didn't do it all the time, and there are some subtle times that were actually pretty nice.
Like,
but every other time was super ham-fisted.
I'm imagining the American version of this where he tosses her the ski
pole.
No,
it'd be worse. I'd hate it. I'd hate it even
more.
Watch
out, you could kill someone with that thing.
The fact that it was European and at least in a different language, so I had to think harder.
But you gotta think, if like, think about like, I don't know. I like foreshadowing, like how they showed the ski pole, because like if she would have just stabbed him with a knife.
See, stuff like the ski pole is what I'm talking about when it comes to good foreshadowing.
Yeah.
It's the other stuff.
Okay. I like the dog, where it's like we have to put him down if they get a taste of blood, sort of thing. I like how that was like tying into everything.
Like if this was a goofier movie, I would have loved that. Like
right.
If this was like a John Carpenter movie, I think that would have been great. But...
And that's something we haven't really hit on. My personal take of this was very much that it was a black comedy. There were parts of it where it was just like so over the top that I laughed, and over the top in a realistic way to me. I know I mentioned earlier how we were going to hit on that. We never did.
No, we never did.
I found this movie very realistic and relatable as a college student. I have not gone through a hazing like this, but I have like observed hazings from the outside.
And that's probably one thing. As a technical school dropout, I didn't relate to it very much at all.
Like her struggles of going through this school were something I could very much relate to. So I will totally admit that I could be biased in this way, that it's like I'm projecting onto this character and her journey. But I do find that kind of worrying, that I was like, oh yeah, I found the cannibal very relatable.
I will say right now that my hatred for this movie is making me talk a bit more than I usually would, and I'm sorry for interrupting you all the time. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, I never get my rating.
Oh wait, you were
okay.
Oh yeah,
sorry.
Give your
rating.
Out of 10.
I could go on for so long, but go with the quick rating. I was flipping between a 9 and an 8, and I rested on an 8, but a very high 8.
Okay. Yeah. Alrighty, so I guess it's my time. Long story short, I enjoyed this movie, but like some of the things that stuck with you guys didn't quite stick with me as well. But like one of the things is, I'm an older brother, and I want to like look out for my youngest brother, and little sister, best I can.
They'll be fine.
Yeah, right. So like I was like, Alex like scared me, or like, because I was like, oh man, am I really like a shitty ass brother or something like that? And like you I don't know, I'm totally messing up the things I'm saying.
That's okay.
And it makes me frustrated.
It's endearing.
Because like I want to like, when I watch a movie that, as Jesse said, was realistic, I get like the feelings that Justine feels like when your parents are taking you to like some place you don't know anything about. So
the teacher is giving you stupid shit for no reason.
Yeah, when the teacher is giving you stupid shit for no reason. But like, the thing is, I'm the oldest, so like I gotta do all this, and then like I want to look out for my younger siblings.
Liam, are you the cannibal?
I gotta hope not.
Okay.
But I mean, last time I checked, I peed standing up, so
that's
that's one of the calling signs.
I just have to throw this in. It's very stupid, but since I've seen Cannibal Holocaust, I want to throw out the line right now of, I wonder who the real cannibals are.
truly, we are the cannibal
Truly,
Holocaust.
we all the Cannibal Holocaust. But so I love the characters, specifically Alex and Justine, because I love like the whole brothers and sisters in movies, but like one of the things that really stuck to me is the whole party animal aspect of these movies. Like Justine turns into a party animal.
Literally.
And like, yeah, literally. Alex is like literally a party animal too. And like the rookies at the end of the movie, like the horn blares, so like they're all doing their morning walk of shame.
Graduated.
Yeah, so it's like the party's over, and you see the face on Alex that she fucked up. She's coming down from that high, and the party's over.
Mm-hmm. Justine
sees that.
The party's over for the first time.
For the first time, and she doesn't like that feeling, and like none of us do. It just sucks. So it's like, wow, you took the party too hard that you ended up like killing someone, multiple people, obviously, but you know,
It was a good party.
it was man,
The best party.
man, it was a good party. So, but like,
If there aren't at least 7 dead hookers in your trunk, you're doing something wrong.
yeah. So it's
If nobody dies at a Dothraki wedding, it's considered a
It's
Dothraki
just-
wedding.
If less than 5 people die.
Are you watching Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay.
I just remember-
it was just
Only reference he knows.
It's literally only the stuff with the Dothraki is all I know
That's
about that
wonderful.
show. Because they're the best part of the whole show.
They are.
to sum up my favorite parts about my favorite
I'm not
part
taking
about
that
this
back, Ron.
movie is the coming of age, the whole party aspect of the movie, and the fact that like how it ends is just so depressing and like walk of shame like. But a lot of people just say, "Oh, this movie is so shocking," but like
I was gonna say I was never really
I
shocked.
tend to disagree. If I want to see a shocking movie, I'll go for, as Sydney said, a Rob Zombie film. But I'm not calling it schlock. I'm calling it a delightful burger
are you
that Rob
call-
Zombie's handing me.
Are you calling it art, Liam? Is it
yeah,
art?
yeah,
I would
am.
agree.
What is art? Can art be judged?
I could agree
Yes.
with you on
I
Halloween
feel-
too.
I feel
Halloween
like-
1 we'll fight about
I
it.
feel like
We'll
what we're
find
doing right here is judging art. So yes, art can be judged.
This is a
I
delight.
love judging art. I love judging stuff I'm not
I was
qualified.
gonna say I do
lo-
too.
Who is
I love
qualified?
doing this and not comparing.
Someone who's probably directed
there
a
are
movie
several-
before.
But
There were
even
several
then,
movies where
I
if we
think
were
he
talking
has,
about, I would
yeah.
go on for days about my hatred.
But yeah, overall 7 out of 10. And thank you, Julia. I enjoyed the film.
Mm.
Ron, you go.
okay.
I was straight up wondering who Julia was for a second.
I was like, what? Who's Julia?
I think that's the
No,
director.
No, it was.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, the
Yeah.
director.
But for
Ah,
5
yeah.
seconds, I was like,
Shout out.
Did we forget a character in his whole speech?
Okay. All right. For me, I'm a very impatient person in life. So when I watched half of this movie, I was on the fence. Like I was going to come and say this is the stupidest movie ever, but then it literally just the ending of this movie brought it all together, and I really loved it. I would say, between the thing that flabbergasted me is how many people out there that left the theater. Like, I feel like this is very tamed.
Casuals.
Yeah, because
For-
that's another thing I had. I don't know if I'm just jaded and broken, but all like the terrible, shocking stuff that
Yeah.
was supposed to happen wasn't that
Yeah.
shocking.
I know
I was
I'm
like,
jaded
hey,
and broken, so
I was
I was
like-
watching this
Because I was telling my coworker about it, and every sentence I said, his face got more disgusted, and the more I was like, "Wait a minute, am I the problem?"
Yeah.
Am
So
I the weirdo?
so I'm like, yeah. If you want to watch something disturbing, watch Cannibal Holocaust.
Don't watch Funny Games.
Yeah. Or what?
Oh, funny games.
I don't even know that one.
Dude, you like it.
I love
Okay.
these answers.
But
Cannibal
I-
Holocaust is pleb tier,
Yes.
shocking.
Yeah.
Up your game.
It's
Yes.
Cannibal Holocaust is good, but it's the first one everyone watches.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
if it's everyone's introductory.
It's
movie.
the gateway drug.
The gateway drug.
It truly is. Okay, but for me, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought I was going to hate it, like I said, and then of course it being a French movie, I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make sure I'm sober to read these subtitles, and so, but
I probably should have also.
maybe that was your point.
Well, no, I was okay. So I was drinking a beer, and I saw it was French, and I'm like, all right, let's see how this works. And then 10 minutes in, I got a double shot of whiskey and another beer.
See, now we know. So my rating is 8 out of 10 for this. So I mean, it's definitely one I'll rewatch. Hopefully, now with talking to you guys about this stuff, I'll see things I didn't see the first time around.
I'll definitely see this again, but after director commentary and stuff like that.
Question.
So we got
really fast.
we got about a 63% for our podcast.
Yeah.
So booyah.
Question really
It's
fast.
so bad.
It's how I passed high school.
Last time we had Killer Clowns from Outer Space, and we said, how do we compare it to other clown movies? Do we want to do that with cannibal movies? Have we seen enough cannibal
I don't
movies?
know if I've seen that many cannibal movies.
Yeah.
Like I've
This is-
seen lots of movies with cannibals in them, but I've never seen. I
But
haven't seen a
also-
movie. I haven't seen very many movies that are.
If we
strictly-
don't want to do that for this one,
I mean,
I
we-
do like the idea of comparing
we-
it to other films
okay,
in
you-
its specific genre.
Okay,
Yeah.
here's the thing. We can compare it, but do not give plots of the movies because if
I
you
would
do,
have just said, like,
yeah, they're like,
better or worse.
Yeah, because people are be like, hey, I didn't watch that one, and you just told me the killer was her or whatever or something. But yeah, if you say, hey, this
in
is right
Cannibal
up there.
Holocaust, there are cannibals?
Yeah,
How dare you?
No, but I will,
Chan was in it.
I will say this: Cannibal Holocaust was hard for me to watch, mainly because of
Nope, turtle.
the turtles. Yeah,
I
the
don't know.
the
You
animal
guys-
the
Have you
animal
guys ever
dust
eaten
scenes.
turtle before.
It's delicious.
But dude,
Okay.
I don't know if they actually ate it or if they just did.
Oh
it
no,
to
they
be-
totally ate it afterwards.
You think?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cheap movie. You gotta save that money for.
Okay.
for-
Well,
They just took it off the craft table.
but the thing is, like, yeah. So the animal death thing, that was the hardest thing to watch out of the Hannibal Holocaust. But
Hannibal Holocaust.
yeah. But go ahead. What movie would you say that you wanted to compare it with? Or
Well, I was just thinking of, like, Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Holocaust, though there are others, like, I think
Like
it was
Cannibal the Musical.
Cannibal.
So how-
There's
how
like
would-
a jungle cannibal movie?
how would this rate with all
number
those?
one.
Green and
That was
Inferno.
wow.
Green
Okay.
yeah,
So all you
definitely
cannibal
number one.
lovers, this is it. If you haven't watched
Well,
Raw,
okay, that's because with so many of those, it became the same movie of we're gonna wander into the jungle.
Oh
my leg is
no,
being eaten.
we're being.
Whereas this one was like it was fresh, it was different. I had a good time. I felt
Oh,
the characters.
I guess
were
the closest
10,000
thing
times
actually to be compared to are some of the Silence of the Lambs movies. That'd probably be the close because that'd probably be the closest thing to compare it to.
better. Okay, that makes it more interesting.
And I don't think it's as good.
I don't think it's as good.
Even
Well,
like what's
well,
the worst Silence of the Lambs movie?
Red Dragon.
The one where he's like young.
No, my bad. Hannibal Rising. Yeah.
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 I've never seen that one. But
I
I
would
know.
say it's on the same tier as
I
Hannibal
never
Rising.
watched. I've never seen Hannibal Rising.
You will hate
Maybe
it.
not as
I will?
good. Just
Yeah.
simply- maybe we'll see. Maybe not as good because at least I like the character of Hannibal. I didn't like any of the
I
characters in this
loved
movie.
the characters of this one, and that was one of the reason it was one of my favorite horror movies. Because like my biggest problem with like modern horror movies is the characters are nothing. I couldn't talk about them.
Okay, would you
Whereas
say-
these ones I can talk about for a long time?
Would you say that these characters are relatable?
Yeah.
No,
Really?
Yeah.
I
would
feel, I
agree
feel
with you.
I wouldn't relate
Justine's
to any
pain.
I would. The only thing I could relate to him is that the fact that hazing is a thing, and
well, hold on.
it
It's
sucks to be
because
there. But
it's because the cannibalism is kind of running parallel to the metaphor of like going to college, coming out of your shell, being forced into things you don't want to do. It's
I never,
they're one. They like
see,
overlay
and
each
for
other.
me, I grew up not sheltered,
Mm-hmm.
so my shell was already broken from when I was still living in my parents' house.
You didn't go to the right college parties.
I went to some
Okay.
pretty big parties, but the thing is, it was whatever. It wasn't like I'm rebelling. It was more like, oh, it's just Tuesday.
it's just
Okay.
another day.
Exactly.
Another
Well,
day.
I wasn't too cool for
Hard
school,
school.
so
Yeah.
I did relate to Justine a lot.
So,
But
okay.
yes, I would hold it
You relate?
if we
Yeah,
are,
I
okay.
definitely
All right.
relate.
if
But
we
then
are
again, I'm
counting
not.
Silence of the Lambs.
Mm-hmm.
That would probably be
Because like you were saying, every other cannibal movie
That's
is like.
hard because
I count that
But no,
more
no.
as a serial killing movie, though.
But like, that's debatable.
Yeah,
you could even
that's
say
fair.
that. You could even
Well,
say the same thing about this movie.
It's because in Silence of the Lambs, he's not the direct villain. It's
No.
Buffalo Bill.
Well, but like I should suppose
It's
that's
true.
why I wanted to bring up more like Hannibal Rising and Red
Gotcha.
Dragon, where it's a little more of a focus. Where he's
Ooh,
a
I
little
do
more
love me
Or
some Red
Hannibal.
Dragon.
I like
The
Red
second
Dragon.
or Hannibal.
Because
Knowledge.
Hannibal is actually the
Yeah,
villain in that.
I don't know why I always figure out Hannibal because it's actually a
Was
decent-
the Red Dragon the one where he hung the dude and his guts hit the ground?
I think
No,
that's
that was
Hannibal.
Hannibal.
That was awesome.
Hannibal's
See,
the
Red-
one where
Red-
he's
Red
eating
Dragon-
the brain.
Red
Yeah.
Dragon was Edward Norton.
Oh,
And like Wolverine,
yeah,
I
yeah.
love
Tooth
Hannibal,
Fairy.
but I would definitely
I
hold Rob of
didn't
that
finish
personally.
You didn't finish it?
I had a hard time getting into Red Dragon.
But anyway,
Okay.
we're
Next
getting
movie.
along. We're getting along.
Okay.
No, not
Okay.
the movie.
Oh, okay.
Because this would normally be the scene where we talk about the emails we get.
Uh-huh.
And so I guess I should just throw out there, in case anyone actually listens to this and has any questions for us, feel free to send us an email at MikeInTheAsylum at gmail.com. That's MikeInTheAsylum at gmail.com.
MIC.
Yes, MIC, not MICK, MIC. Now, normally we'd go through our emails, and then the big reveal at the end of the episode would be the next movie, which I believe this week is Ron's choice.
Yes, and we are staying with 2016, guys.
Ooh.
Oh.
And it is The Autopsy of Jane Doe.
I haven't seen that one.
Now
Yeah, I
that's
haven't seen that one.
I love this movie. I showed it to Sydney
yes,
already.
I watched it a few years ago. It is a very enjoyable movie.
Should we have him read the back?
Nah,
Yep.
because granted, I don't don't think the back has any sort of huge spoilers.
And
in it,
I
but
will say this
is a
about-
lot like Raw. You should go in knowing as little as possible.
Yeah, and I feel like movies are just better. Like, because don't watch the trailer right before you watch a movie. Don't read the back of movies.
Trailers
because
ruin movies.
They
Trailers
spoil it a lot. The only one that didn't spoil it was Hereditary, which we'll do
Yes.
that in the future.
Oh
The
my
only-
gosh.
the
There are
only
so
one-
many trailers I wish I didn't see.
The only trailer that didn't spoil the movie was Anchorman.
So go ahead and grab a copy of
The autopsy.
Autopsy of Jane
Oh
Doe.
my gosh, I can't even talk right now. Okay, so